Thanks for downloading another segment from the Best of the Classic Metal Show. The Classic Metal Show is heard live on Saturdays from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com. And now here's another piece of Classic Metal Show history on the Best of the Classic Metal Show.
The Classic Metal Show.
All right, if you didn't know, we've been talking about Darryl Keck throughout the evening, and of course Darryl wrote the book Metal Generation, and he lost big time on the Iron Maiden trivia. So you're going to have to add that in your next copy of your book. I could not pass the Iron Maiden trivia on the Classic Metal Show, but read my book anyway.
Yeah, no kidding.
So what's going on, Darryl?
Not a whole lot. Just trying to, luckily the book's been, hitting the right people. It's hitting the metal fans that are, were kind of from the same place I was. It's not hitting those Bon Jovi guys that, those fans of those kind of people, So that's kind of cool. I've been getting good feedback on that, and, not a whole lot other than that. It's just trying to get it out there.
Right. Well, how are book sales going for you, being that you're another independent guy?
Kind of for shit, it sells enough. I didn't expect it to do really well because I'm not writing the, I don't know, what do you call it, slash story or something like that. But at the same time, I'm kind of hoping there's enough people out there just to, kind of go to another pressing every now and then. So, it's doing what I want it to do, but at the same time, I'm sure there's a lot more, a lot of those people, though, that were, totally into the metal like I was back in the, early 80s, that maybe, had their own fanzines and that, or, totally off doing something different. So, it might be 5 years before they actually find out that, that it actually exists.
Sure. Well, Darryl, obviously, anybody that's listened to the show, to our show, they know that we are very big fans of what's been going on with the book, with Metal Generation coming out. Why do you think it is that metal fans, just don't? And I'm not only zeroing in on your book, but just in general, don't zero in on a book unless it's got some. Unless it's some rock star talking about their drug use or their sexploitation and stuff. Why do you think that metalheads just don't buy books? Because it's about their scene, and it's it'll kind of remind them of what they grew up with. Why do you think they skip?
Well, I think part of it, maybe has to do with the fact that there's a lot of books out there right now. There was Ian Christie's Sound of the Beast, and and I think they probably think, for instance, my book's probably just another history lesson, which it isn't. It's obviously a trip down that whole road. But at the same time, I think you look at a lot of the books out there, and I think there's so many shows on VH1 now, where it's the the history of metal and all those kind of shows, where I think they probably think that everything has been covered already. So why read about it again? Because there was that book out called Bang Your Head, and I thought that just really sucked donkey. It was everything.
It what? It what?
What?
It did what?
It sucked donkey. It did. It was just the worst book. I couldn't stand it. It was a VH1 special, and it was the guy wasn't even a metal fan. He was some guy that I think went to one maybe a Dawkins show or a pre-show or something when he was 17, and then
Thanks
just did
for
the research.
downloading another segment from
Hold on a minute.
Best of the Class.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
No, that's the whole thing. It's he, just wrote a book on that, based on the fact that he went to a show and then did a bunch of research. And I was like, man, this is just really sucks. And every review I've ever read on it, they didn't like it either. So, I just think a lot of people would rather, listen to a show like yours or whatever and get their metal stuff that way. But, I personally, I like reading books on that kind of stuff. But I'm not a big one to go read an autobiography of somebody out there just to hear about their sexual exploits or whatever.
Right.
I know they did them and everything, and you got to look at somebody like Bret Michaels and what I could just go into a whole thing about that right now.
Yeah, he's a disgusting pig.
I heard on your show. But I heard on your show that he's going to have his own biography. What has that guy really achieved? It's I can think of two things in his whole career that I think are even noteworthy.
That's two more than I got. What are they?
Okay, I know you're going to disagree with this one, but I think the look with the Cat Dragged In album was good for what it was, and I thought him banging Pamela Anderson was pretty cool. Aside from that, that's about it.
You didn't think him hooking up with those awful skanks in Rock of Love 1 and 2 was noteworthy?
That doesn't. Okay, that's the whole thing I want to talk about. All right,
dude. Chachi banged Pamela Anderson. What kind of a?
That's true. Yeah, really, she's had more rock stars in her than Rolling Stones, hasn't she? It's like, I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing with her. It's like Kid Rock and who else was you? Tommy Lee.
Tommy Lee.
Yeah, it's just like everybody. I think he got there a little bit before some of them guys, though, didn't he?
Yeah, she bore his spore.
Yeah, a little early. But, I mean, the whole thing, though, with that whole Rock of Love thing, though, I mean, I know you guys have covered that thing to death and everything, but it just seems weird.
Not us. We barely touched it.
Really?
We didn't even talk about it because everybody else was talking about it, so it's just like, let everybody else glom onto that. We'll talk about stuff that people really care about.
Yeah,
like S-Bach on Celebrity Rap Superstar.
Yeah, but I mean, there was something you said when you were talking about Ricky Rocket, a few months ago, where you were like, where did Bret Michaels become so important all of a sudden? And and I started thinking about that, and I kind of think I have it all figured out what happened with him. Like if you watch cable TV, you got the whole thing. Like you got like people like that Emerald on there, and they're like they have a band behind them, and then they're like cooking and throwing sea salt on their fucking on their steaks, and people are cheering. Like Kiss just took the stage in '77, and the World Poker Tour people, with like they're just compulsive gamblers that and all these people are treating them like the rock stars. So it's kind of like Bret Michaels just kind of fits in that stupidity out there, in my opinion.
Sure. Well, Darryl, with Metal Generation, man, with the book, is there any sites out there that has reviews of the book, and what kind of reviews have you gotten?
Actually, they've all been pretty positive. I mean, I got one from where was it? Like, this sounds terrible. I can't even think of the place that had it. I'd have to look it up. I mean, there's some different ones that have been out there. Like the one I told you before, Bob's site, on Hard Radio. There's a really good review on there.
Right, and that guy loves us.
He does. I mean, he does. I'm not Hard Radio, but I mean Bob. From Shockwaves does like
Shockwaves.
Oh yeah, from Shockwaves likes us. He's afraid of us. Actually, he's actually sent us some emails saying I sure hope I never get on your bad side.
Yeah, see that.
I'm not sure what that means though.
Well, Darryl, interestingly, man, just like Metal Generation, we get reviews too online.
Yeah.
And one that we got was from is over there on iTunes, and it says, "How can anyone think Talking Metal is better than this? Isn't listening close enough?" The classic metal show is done by metal fans who aren't afraid to have an opinion. That's what I love about this show. To be a metal fan, you have to take a side, which the CMS does. And they aren't afraid to talk to obscure musicians. Talking Metal talks too much about having people buy them beers, Battlestar Galactica, Kiss, and liking everything they hear. CMS just tells it like it is. That was by somebody named High Volume.
That was me.
That was you?
That was me.
Really?
Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
What? You knew that, didn't you?
No, had no idea.
Yep, that was mine.
Wow. Well, that's high praise, Darryl.
Yeah. Well, totally. You guys got the best show out there. So
really?
I'm just saying that because I'm sitting here right now talking to you, and
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, I listen to Red and Jerry's. I listen to Shockwaves. I've listened to Talking Metal time to time, and it's just like, but I like some of those shows, but I mean, I really like this show the best because. When you guys say what it is, it makes everybody laugh. It's hilarious,
Well, how are Mark and John these days, anyway?
Yeah, I know. I knew I was going to catch hell for that.
Well, I want to say one thing, though, real quick, because I think it's really important. One thing I got a real respect for is back when I was doing, the magazine stuff, anybody who was doing a fanzine that I knew or even a magazine, they couldn't play the music very good. I mean, we could all play a few bar chords or, get behind a drum set and maybe keep a 4/4 beat or whatever. But, watching you guys on the Fuse channel and seeing you guys actually playing these songs with these bands, and that was incredible. I mean, it was just kind of like, wow, you guys can talk the talk and walk the walk.
Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it.
South of Heaven and these songs, and, I mean, playing with guys like, guys in Exodus and In This Moment and stuff, it was just like, wow, it's about time we finally seen that because, I mean, me or Joe Lopez or any of these guys that did that, I mean, if we would have sat down with, say, I don't know, one of those kind of guys, or Bobby Blitz or whatever, you know, we would last about maybe to the first, like, 10 seconds of the song. You know, so I think it was a good thing that you guys showed that.
I'm going to stand behind that. I agree with that on the Fuse channel. I like what they did.
Come on, Darryl. Stop being such a puss.
Hey, man, I'm serious. I thought they did really good on that. That was the one thing I like about that show.
Dude. You're going to tell me that you were impressed that some dummy that graduated from Berkeley could play the riff to "I'm Broken"? Come on, dude.
Hey, man, I mean, like, I'm just saying, from, like, when right before we were talking about that, we were, they kind of, you probably could play it back, but they were mentioning stuff about, you know, like, the fanzines kind of opened the door, but all us fanzine writers, man, most of us couldn't play shit. I mean, I couldn't play shit. I mean, I could play the drums a little bit, but I couldn't play stuff like that, and, you know, I just thought it was kind of cool to actually see them keeping up with those guys, because, I mean, like, Exodus, I don't know, that's the only thing I would say I thought was pretty cool about that show. So.
Dude, why didn't you tell them that you thought it was cool the way they passed the mic back and forth without spilling their beers in every bar that they record their shit podcast from?
Probably the same way you didn't tell Michael Schenker that his album sucked too.
Who didn't?
When you were had Michael Schenker on your show, you know, it was kind of like you didn't really
have the record at that point.
What's that?
I didn't have the record at that point to
okay.
make an assessment. I honestly didn't.
Well, I told him off air that I thought they liked too much stuff, but you know, on air I was trying to be nice. So.
Did you tell him what a fan you are of the CMS?
Yeah, actually, I told him on there I liked the CMS show, and he didn't really say anything about it. So.
Of course he didn't.
And they edited that out too.
Yeah.
That's funny. Nah, Darryl, we really enjoy your book, and we consider you a friend, and we just wanted to bust your chops a little bit.
Oh, I was hoping for it, you know. I said, even when I did that, and it was kind of like after I said that, I said, you know what? They're gonna. I got off the phone. I said they're gonna fucking kill me on this one. They're gonna destroy me because of what I just said there, you know. But
yeah, go out and get Darryl's book and show him that podcast sells books. What do you think of their drunken banter, dude? Taking their talking metal digital recorder to a bar and screaming over the crowd.
You know, that thing, I remember they did that with that band Into Eternity. You know, you couldn't hear, I don't know if it was there. I thought they had a bar, and you couldn't, like, hear shit. And I'm thinking, God, man, if you're going to be talking to these guys, you should really be talking to them in a better spot.
I don't know if you caught last week's show or not. Last week we did a little The Metal Experts, and they were doing their god-awful panhandling with GoDaddy. And, come on, you got to help us out here if you want to keep this podcast free. Meanwhile, we're down in beers and shots. It's costing us $5 a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just like, dude, who are you kidding here?
You know, maybe they need to get a different sponsor too. Maybe they should have, like, you know, Amazon or something like that, because GoDaddy, I mean, that's like going out and buying web space and everything, and not everybody's going to go out and make their own website.
Well, you have, but it's free. It's free to sign up, and anybody can do it.
Yeah. But that doesn't really make them any money, though.
Well, supposedly it does if you buy it through their links on their Talking Metal page.
Okay.
You get 10% of an $8 purchase. That's fantastic. 80 whole cents.
Holy shit.
Yeah, keep that podcast free.
Yeah, exactly.
Well. Speaking of making money, Darryl, how many pressings have you gone to now with the Metal Generation?
Well, see, I only do like 50 copies at a shot, you know. So I'm only up to about 200 copies, which is probably okay, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. So it's not really getting out there. It isn't like Lon Friend's book where he's going to be like, you know, the guy's doing book signings at Borders and shit like that. You know, if I walked into a record store, they'd probably be like, who the hell is this guy, you know? So, yeah, so, you know, it's doing okay, but it's not doing great.
Sure. What does it cost you to press a book?
For one of those, well, see, I do it, like I said, a small run like that, and that way I can change things as I'm going. I don't get stuck with the same thing in there all the time. I can, like, add a few more pictures or whatever. But usually it's like $5.75 or $6 a book. But then, like, Amazon, they'll take a big percentage, and then, you know, PayPal and them take a percentage. So, you know, and I try to keep it down to, like, $11.95 on the site. So, you know, I don't know. It works out okay, but, you know, with shipping and everything, it kind of screws you.
Yeah, maybe you should sell a GoDaddy subscription with every purchase or something. Maybe you make a little more back. Well, dude, obviously, man, the world of metal is what you are an observer of, that you write about and stuff, and clearly there's a lot of stuff going on this summer. What do you see as, like, the key things going on this summer? It's big metal summer.
Well, one of the things, I mean, obviously, we were talking about that off air that one time, but, the whole, I have a hard time calling it heaven and hell. I always want to call it Black Sabbath because, I don't know.
Because it is Black Sabbath.
It is Black Sabbath. I mean, the first album I bought by Black Sabbath was Heaven and Hell back in '81, and
right.
I can't even imagine calling that. Is that because of a Sharon Osbourne thing?
Yeah, Sharon owns Black Sabbath and won't let them call it that.
Well, it's kind of funny that Black Sabbath were making music long before Sharon ever, entered the picture, and now all of a sudden, when Dio was there, she was just kind of getting into Ozzy's life, and it's just kind of weird that whole thing. But anyways, I think that's going to be a cool tour. But the only thing that's kind of weird about that, and I got to touch on this subject, is did you really think about the youngest or the average age of the performers playing that?
No.
Man, it's like, they better have oxygen and paramedics standing by, because it's the youngest guy is probably Alex Skolnick, who's 39, or
right.
39 or 40, and it's just I'm oh my God, this is kind of weird, I'm kind of it almost kind of feels like a nostalgia thing, but then at the same time, Testament put out probably one of the best records since way back with what they
right.
have.
Well, in your opinion, Darryl, as an author of a metal book,
yeah,
since these tours are so popular and these guys are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s,
right?
Why won't these record labels and these people who promote music get it that this style of music and these type of bands sell?
I don't know. I think the main reason for that probably is that, I don't know, are a lot of people still buying the records by, say, Motorhead? As much as it sells, for the shows, sometimes I don't think the people are, the same people that are going to the shows are buying the records.
Dude, Testament moved 13,000 copies in first week.
Yeah,
13,000,
awesome.
and they ended up on Billboard. They're
that's
number
awesome.
50 on Billboard. It's selling.
Yeah, that one is, and but say Judas Priest and Dio on that. I don't, it's so stupid right now. I don't know why they would, I kind of get the impression that they're going to always go for the younger bands that are more naive, and I think these bands that kind of expect a little more because they've been around longer. Somebody like Judas Priest, they're not going to take one of these contracts because they've been out there for so long.
Right.
Same with Dio and Heaven, the whole Heaven and Hell thing. I know them guys wouldn't. They were going to put out something real fresh.
Right, definitely. Dude, here's one that I need an explanation of, and I think Neely does too, because him and I have stood the stance for at least 10 years now that King's X sucks.
They do.
But who's listening to their shit?
Well, I got to ask you this quick before I get into that question. I looked on the Pit Riff site, and it said one of the most, one of the biggest tours this summer is going to be Extreme and King's X. And I'm who put the gun to your head when you type that in?
That was called a joke that I was throwing in there.
Is it oh my God, it's fucking King's X? I cannot see anybody that buys that. They don't, and why are they even considered even in the metal genre at all?
But I'll tell you what, if you say something bad about them, their fans come out of the woodwork to crucify. I'm still getting emails from a bad review I wrote of their last record, that Ogre Tones.
Yeah.
I still get hate mail from that.
Well, at least you listen to it. I can't even get that far. I'll just hear those little samples once in a while by them, and I'm just I know they got their fans, and they're kind of there's certain groups out there that people like, and they go for that or whatever, but I don't know. I can't picture anybody really wanting to buy King's X, except for those Mr. Big fans that are total music buffs that, really don't, the songs aren't any good, but they just like the instrumentation, that kind of stuff.
Well, what I kind of found funny, and we did this on the show years ago, is that Doug Pinnick wrote an open letter to the fans, and he talked about how they were on the Woodstock and how they were featured on Howard Stern, and how the same bands like Jackal, and he mentioned another band that was on Woodstock and mentioned on Howard Stern and stuff, and they sold 55,000 copies that same week, and they were only able to move 5,000 copies, and he just doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
It's well, what does that tell you, dude? Nobody's into you.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the mystery there?
For like King's X, you mean? Or
yeah,
what?
I mean, why would he write something like that? I mean, the proof is in the pudding. If people aren't buying your music, maybe you aren't that good.
Yeah, I think that totally. I mean, they don't. I mean, I'm sure they have their diehard fans and everything, but it's just. I think it's just their style. I think a long time ago, somebody from Atlantic Records tried to promote them, because they didn't know what they were talking about back then, and they tried to promote them as a metal band, put them on Headbangers Ball, and I just think, maybe they would have been better off with some like, I don't know, jazz fusion kind of crowd or something. I can't even classify King's X. I just know it isn't metal and shouldn't even be considered it.
Right.
Well, I got another question for you, Darryl. Tell us a little bit about Eric Braverman.
Eric Braverman. Yeah, I know. I heard you earlier in the show where you said, talking about him. I knew Eric back in Arizona when I lived down there. He was doing a magazine called Loud, and he was like the road manager for Flotsam and Jetsam. And he was always the funniest dude.
Well, that's how I roll.
No, he was always the funniest guy, And I remember, especially with Flotsam and Jetsam, I'd be sitting there talking to him 20 minutes before I'd go do an interview with them, and I would just be cracking up the whole time. He's always the loudest guy in the room, always had the most funny things to say, knew so much about different bands and everything else. And then I'd go back and talk to Flotsam and Jetsam, and them guys were just the most boring band to talk to. I mean, I love their music, but they were just so dry. They were so so humorless. And I'd walk out after the interview. I'd walk up and I'd just be wanting to ask Eric, Eric, would you just I'm going to ask you the same questions and you answer them, and I'll put them guys' names on it because this is not even good press at all.
What are you, high?
So it was, that's the thing I knew about Eric totally. And he was. I knew him throughout the years, and but then once I left Arizona, I saw him one time when he was touring with Flotsam and Jetsam, and then just kind of lost touch with him after that.
Awesome.
But I thought what was funny when you guys talked to him the second time was when he went on that whole thing with the Neil Diamond thing. I mean, it was he's I'm sitting there. I'm going to try to recite it the best I can, but he's I'm sitting there watching him. He doesn't even leave to get a glass of water and everything, and I'm thinking, fuck, man, I went to see Metallica in '85 on the Ride the Lightning tour. And I couldn't have told you if James went over and even puked on the stage. I wasn't watching him that close. And it's how could he sit there and stare at Neil Diamond that long? And it was I'm starting to wonder if he has one of those Saving Silverman, those expanded DVD collections at home that has the extra Neil Diamond footage in it. And, he's just a big closet Neil Diamond fan, just doesn't want to admit it. What do you got? What's your take on that?
Let's not get away from metal.
I'm with you, man. I thought he was a little bit. The thing about Eric, and I mean, we've talked to him a couple times now, and I'm by no means am I saying we know him or understand him or anything like that.
Yeah.
But the thing about that dude is, I swear, if we all live in a circle, he lives in a triangle, and he just bounces from wall to wall. He doesn't have a clear path that he follows.
I think a lot of that has to do. You ever see what he looks like?
Yeah.
I'm the guy that looks like the buffalo.
Well, I think he kind of looks like Cornelius from the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
I think he was a little bummed probably when he didn't get cast with Mark Wahlberg on that show, on that remake.
Yeah, he does. He does look like him.
Yeah, he does. It was it's a real trip. I don't know if he still has the sideburns as bad as he did back when he did that Metallica movie, but he's a trip.
Yeah, he's a character. So what do you think? What do you think is his? I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. What makes him tick?
Probably, I don't know. Probably some good drug, some good over the. I mean, not over the counter, but probably some good designer drug. Probably.
Do you think he's
not high? That's your problem.
Do you think
either that or just some good Jack Daniels? I don't know.
Do you think he's affected at all?
Is he what?
Is he affected at all? From drug use or something.
I don't know. I mean, he's been around everybody, so I'm sure he saw his share of stuff, throughout the years. But I would say, he might be. I don't want to say though for sure, but I would think he's done his share of partying.
Excellent. Well, we wanted to ask you a little bit about Eric because the first time we had him on the show, I asked him about you because
I remember that.
He was saying he was from the Phoenix area and whatnot, and I knew you were out there at one time, and he knew exactly who you were right away.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird, and he knew I was in Iowa. I think I called him once, right at the start of when I was going to write this book on the history of metal. I wanted just his viewpoints on it. I think we talked for like 12 minutes or 13 minutes, and he had to go. And I'm like, how the hell could he remember that I was, back then, that I moved to Iowa from Arizona? So, the guy's got a good memory. So a lot of times when he recites a fact, I know he's telling the truth about it, that he remembers it really well.
Snarling, fantastic. He's a man.
Well, Eric is our resident metal expert along with you, so I think we're going to probably have him on again. We kind of plan on having him on at least once a month.
Yeah, that'd be cool. He's just funny when he just talks about stuff, though. So, and it's like, and just the way, and I believe him too. Like what if he says, "Oh yeah, I could probably call Slater today," and and they'd give you a call. I would seriously, if he said that to me, I would expect a call like an hour or 2 hours later from Tom.
Sure.
He just seems like he does know these people to that level.
Right.
Did you ever see the Metallica movie he did?
Yes, I have it actually. The Metalomania, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the guy was so fast on asking questions to some of these people in the parking lot. It's just one of those kind of things where he has a pretty good gift of gab with that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well,
that's how I roll.
Well, we his publicist, if you will, our friend Dave Tedder, set us up with him, and Dave called me up the day after he had his second interview with us, and he was just all abuzz because Eric thinks that there's synergy here between the Classic Metal Show and himself, and he thinks we could take this to the top by, putting together some kind of video footage of the Classic Metal Show and himself going out to concerts and interviewing, Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or whatever the case may be, So he's all excited about that.
Are you going to do that?
Thank you, Neely. Thank you, Chris, for even caring enough to posting the words classic metal on the Internet.
I thought the person who set that up would have been Mark Paschke. I only heard that name like 4,000 times drop during his interview. So.
Very nice.
You got your Mark Paschke clip?
I don't have a Paschke on this one.
Oh, damn it.
I was gonna,
Yeah, he's a very quotable guy.
Exactly.
My partner, Mark Paschke, and I.
Yeah, it was so funny. He just said that like a million times. I was just like sitting there going, I think I know that name better than Don Dokken right now. It stuck with me more.
Nice. Well, speaking of that, what do you think of the new Dokken? You a big fan of that at all, or you?
Yeah, well, I've been listening to it. I'm getting into it. It's really, you're right. I love the guitar riffs on that stuff.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's just like, and the guitar leads. I remember you played a little bit for me, but I think it might have been more in demo form at that time.
Yeah, it was a demo, definitely.
Yeah, but it was like, and his voice is better, and I've noticed that, though. I mean, not to jump from what Dokken's doing, but I have noticed that for some reason this year, it seems like everybody has kind of got their shit together again.
Well, it's a 20-year cycle. I
is
believe,
that what it is?
I believe it is. I believe every 20 years, everything comes back around.
Yeah, but it's just weird because it's like, even like a band like, say, Scorpions put out a halfway decent record last year, and then you had, Lizzie Borden's was all right, but then this year it really got, you have Death Angels was incredible. I think that should have been the album that followed the Ultraviolence. Testaments is like, oh my God, just unbelievable. And then Dokken's is great. It's just like, wow, man, everybody surprised me. Just when you think that they're not going to be able to, recap that, they do.
Well, you think about it, 88 was a huge year, and now we're in 2008, 20 years later, and, it just seems like that's what happens.
But usually a lot of these guys, seem to be losing their, their voices aren't the same anymore, like if you listen to Jeff Tate of Queensryche, he doesn't sound like he did, 20 years earlier, and, but these guys all, Chuck Billy sounds great still, Mark sounds great in Death Angel, Don's sounding better than he has on some of those previous records.
Yeah, he even sounds better now, because he had nasal surgery, and he stopped smoking and stopped drinking, and, he's gained like 3 octaves in his voice since the recording of the CD.
Yeah. So that helps a lot, just right there. Plus, I remember his interview that you had, where he's kind of talking about like how he quit, drink or smoking, but then doing drugs and everything. So,
well, he had back surgery a few years ago, and he's always in pain because of his back.
Yeah.
And he was on pain pills, and sometimes it just gets a little out of control, taking a lot of pain pills, and so he's completely off of those too.
No, that's cool. I just can't imagine them opening for Poison, though. I really think Dokken's got a lot better songs, like when you look back at their back catalog, to do a show like that, then. But I guess Poison's got their whole bullshit stuff going on, so I guess they're
Poison brings one thing to the table: people.
Yeah.
That's what Poison brings. It's not like. It's definitely not like Doc and or Sebastian are playing that tour because they feel like there's a musical synergy between them and Poison. They're doing it because they want to play in front of 10 to 15,000 a night.
Will there be that many people there? You think though?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Dude, every year that dumb show does good numbers. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I can see now. I'm just wondering what kind of people are at that show though. Is it gonna be a bunch of the Rock of Love watchers, or is it gonna be like just old school like 80s hard rock fans?
Mostly the overweight, hardcore, old school 80s rocker people,
Yeah, like Tammy.
Old twats and young whores.
Yeah,
nice.
But like that Tammy that called during or that you guys had.
Oh my God!
Recording. Wasn't she like Beavis and Butthead with tits? That was like the scariest thing in the world, man.
Yeah, you could hear the clear.
That better be on your best of show.
Yeah, you could hear the clear irritation in Don's voice when we played that.
Oh, totally. It was just the funniest thing though, listening to that, because I'm like, I could just get like a picture of her. She seemed like one of those women that just had her whole house, like way overweight, had her, probably looked like Lemmy but with warts other places, that kind of thing. And like her whole house is covered in Doc and albums, and she probably bought like a Doc and bedspread with under lock and key put on it, and big wet spot on Doc and every night.
Oh, nice.
You could just hear the fat gurgling in her throat. That's what I got out of that.
It was like. I could just picture her, so I was just like, but it was just like such a classic phone recording.
Oh man, we just couldn't wait to play that.
Oh, it was hilarious.
I mean, I've known Don for years, and I know his threshold for goofiness, and I knew we were really pushing it with that, and I just knew he was gonna,
He was like, enough. But I think the thing that was so hilarious about that, though, was, it was kind of like one of those things that you guys didn't touch on, but it's like, that is why not everybody gets a backstage pass. And that's why there's security at shows, and that's why, you always have security people around when you're doing record signings, because you know what kind of freaks are going to show up.
Sure, absolutely.
She sounded like the whole world, like Don did her a disservice by not showing up, something, like he was supposed to make a separate, a trip to her trailer or whatever,
Yeah, well, this would make up for me not meeting you.
Exactly. I'm sure he's losing sleep over, not meeting her.
Yeah, I had to leave early, and I heard you did a CD signing, so if you'd call me, this would make up for me not meeting you.
But what's really funny about that is she's like this huge Dokken fan, supposedly, right? But then she's saying, like, that from that album, Crash and Burn, I'm like, it was called Up From the Ashes. How much do you really know about Dokken? It was just like, she just was so, she was so out there, it was unbelievable, but...
Well, I'm glad we entertained you, Darryl.
Big time. That's like one of the funniest things. I actually had to play that for someone else because I thought it was so funny.
Very nice. All right, Darryl. Well, we're going to let you wrap things up here and say what you want to say to the fans and plug your book and tell them where they can get it and all that good stuff, and give us the outlook for your future here.
Well, okay, for my book, you can go to www.highvolumepress.com. I have it on there. It's discounted on there. And I don't know, I guess the outlook for the future is hopefully the book just sells some. But, I just want to say this last thing here. I think it's really funny, like, how many people are coming out with, like, these autobiographies. I couldn't believe it when I heard on your show that Bobby Blotzer is putting one out.
That's must read.
Well, he's got
what's he going to write about?
He's got a lot to say.
What's that?
He's got a lot to say.
You think he does?
No.
I think he's really going to have to, like, what's he going to say, like, he got tired of staring at, or like, he used to like staring at Stephen Piercy's ass from behind the drum riser, and then, Jizzy's didn't look so good, so, that's why he didn't really like Jizzy. Because Jizzy sounded just like, you guys even said that. Jizzy sounded just like Stephen Piercy. I remember when I saw them in 2000, I had to take a double look to make sure that wasn't Piercy. And then he gets on there saying, well, I wanted somebody that didn't sound anything like Stephen. So I'm like, God, he's tone deaf, to not even hear that. But the worst thing about that, okay, Blotzer and and people like that, is when they get on your show, they're always picking these. Do these guys like metal at all? It's hard to read a book about somebody that that's in the whole metal genre, but doesn't really like metal. You picked Emerson, Lake and Palmer, who was on your show.
Well, it's no Sarah Smile, but
what's that?
He had to do what he had to do. I said it was no Sarah Smile that he chose, but he had to pick what he had to pick.
Yeah, I caught a lot of shit for that, didn't I?
Yeah, I saw that on your site too. That you actually posted an explanation about that. Why don't you just tell the fans to go fuck themselves?
Yeah, exactly.
If they don't like it, too bad.
Hey, let me ask you this, though. If you got say you were going to see Death Angel and Testament, and you got a Death Angel's bus, and they're playing Careless Whisper by Wham, wouldn't you be like, what the fuck?
Of course I would, but if somebody questioned me for calling my band out, I'd tell them to go kill themselves.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
You know, I mean, that's my whole point, dude. It's not that you wrote it in the book. You did the right thing by writing it in the book. It's that people called you out for it. Like, how dare you say that because bands listen to other things? Shut up. What are you doing? Get out of your fucking trailer and write something then, dickweed.
Exactly. Good point. But anyways, that was the whole thing. Though. Like I said, you know, like I really think some of these bands, you know, like you guys are interviewing and stuff, like say Brian Weed at Tesla and stuff. It's kind of like these guys aren't metal fans, though. I mean, even like Bobby Blotzer is called Blink 182, Blink 189. It's like you don't even know who's in this decade. Didn't you think that was kind of funny?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's just like you know. So I don't know if you asked him to play like some band like one song in the last 10 years, I bet you the guy doesn't know one unless they wrote it themselves.
Right.
But anyway, so that's enough on that. I was just saying that it just seems like there's a lot of these biographies coming out all of a sudden, and it always seems like by a lot of these guys. I mean, Slash is one thing, but there's a lot of these guys that just seem like kind of like the has-been musicians writing them. So
they got to make a dollar somehow.
Yeah, I just wish they'd write better songs. Maybe that would help make a dollar for them.
Sure, I agree. All right, Darryl, we appreciate you taking a few minutes and chatting with us and putting up with our nonsense and busting you out on the Talking Metal. And
it was fun.
Since you're good pals with them and mentioned us over there, and since they
we send emails back and forth all the time. So, you know.
To their talkingmetal@yahoo.com.
Well, exactly. Darryl, if the next time you do talk to Mark and John, since they do like to drink, tell them I recommend a large glass of Drano.
Okay.
You can buy it at your local grocery store. Don't even have to go to exotic liquor store to get it.
Exactly.
And as a matter of fact, if they want a panhandle, I'll happily purchase the Drano for them.
There you go.
All right, Darryl. Well, I guess since you mentioned the Death Angel, new Death Angel release, Chris and I hung out with the Death Angel guys a couple of weeks ago. Real nice guys, great CD. It'll be in the top 5 of the year for us anyway.
Oh, for sure.
So
it's one of my favorite right now. So
excellent. So you want to pick something off of that?
Yeah. How about Lord of Hate off of that?
All right. And you like that song because of?
Well, I gotta tell you though, it starts off kind of mellow, but then he just kicks in with that killer scream, and it's just like, you know it was going to be a good album right at that moment.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, well, go to Darryl's website over there, highvolumepress.com. Go pick up his book, Metal Generation. He was so kind to mention us in the Classic Metal Show in the book, and the next pressing will have the CMS bumper sticker right on the front.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Seriously, I'm going to have her change that up for me. So
cool. All right, Darryl, we appreciate it. We'll have you back again.
Sounds cool. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right, dude. Well, here it is. This is Death Angel from their latest release, Killing Season, and this is Lord of Hate, exclusively here
on your Classic Metal Show.
Thanks for checking out the best of the Classic Metal Show. You can tune into the Classic Metal Show live every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com.
The Classic Metal Show.